Larry Hovis. I'm about a third of the way through Dianetics, and I wanted to pause and ask you a couple of questions about it. The first thing someone who doesn't know much about Scientology or Dianetics notices about this book is that it makes astounding promises about the benefits you'll get from following the program. Cure to all psychosomatic diseases, total memory recall, turning your brain into a supercomputer, no more arthritis, myopia, asthma, etc. All religions have their share of crazy beliefs. Christians believe in life after death, though you can't really prove it one way or another. But Hubbard is very explicit about particular concrete results you're going to get by following his steps, and says over and over again that these results have been scientifically proven. He makes the claim so often that it's unintentionally funny. Authentic scientific works do not tell you repeatedly, "Trust me, this is real science." What's more, he claims that it's easy to get these amazing results. Anyway, my question to you is, what do Scientologists think about the promises that Hubbard makes in this book? Do they take them seriously or not worry about them too much? Do they really believe that it's science? Do they believe that they're going to get superpowers once they finish this or that stage of the program? When the results don't materialize, how do they explain that? You were a Scientologist for 27 years, if I recall. Back then, how did you manage the dissonance between Hubbard's claims and the easily observable fact that Scientologists still get sick, don't have total recall, and so forth? All right. Thank you very much for this, Larry. So, Dianetics, Modern Science Mental Health, Book 1. This book definitely is off the rails in terms of all the claims that it makes, and it is way exaggerated as to what you're actually going to get out of Dianetics. Here's the thing. All that sales talk was done back in 1950 in order to generate a mass interest campaign in that material and to sell them on doing the procedure. And the procedure would sort of sell itself, was the idea. And the procedure, remember, is a form of hypnosis. And I can't really stress that enough. Dianetics is not something separate and unique and different from hypnosis. It is a kind of hypnosis. It involves trance induction, it involves recalling things in the past, and it involves reliving things in the past, not just recalling them, but actually sending your mind back and casting yourself and putting yourself back into incidents of pain and stress and trauma in your past and reliving them. And it involves an auditor who is giving you orders and commands, not just asking you questions. The auditor will order you to repeat certain phrases, for example, or direct you as to where to go based on the auditor's understanding of what's going on, which is literally a no understanding at all of what's going on, because auditors in Dianetics and Scientology have no clue about, through their training at least, they're not required to have any clue about the brain, about psychology, about psychological principles, or about what it is that they're actually messing with. They don't get any of that. All they have is Hubbard's nonsense explanations for what they're doing, and those explanations are deceptive on purpose. Because Hubbard didn't want people thinking that he was hypnotizing people in order to get the results he was getting with Dianetics. I mean, that's really the long and short of it, is he created something with hypnosis and Freudian and other things piled in there, and then he changed some of the nomenclature around, and then he basically taught people how to engage in hypnosis with other people. And there are all these pre- and post hypnotic suggestions and commands that are occurring during the process of it. And all this literature, these claims and promises that Hubbard is making are part of the pre-hypnotic suggestions. The person's they're building up this whole idea of all this wonderful stuff they're going to get from this Dianetics counseling. And then they start doing the Dianetics counseling, and they have all these built-up expectations. And if any of those expectations are hit at all in any way, if they get any kind of positive gain or result, which they, of course, want to achieve, that's why they're doing Dianetics in the first place, then they automatically, because of the way our lack of critical thinking works and our emotional investments work, they will assign more value to what they got out of their Dianetics auditing than is really warranted by the facts. That's that emotional investment again. And so they don't. So what ends up happening is they don't achieve the results that L. Ron Hubbard claims, but the results that they think they get are so wonderful, right? They've built it up, that they go, oh, well, I got this result, so it must be that eventually I'll get those great, big, huge, wonderful results that Hubbard promised. And they continue on and they keep investing. And then you get what's called a sunk cost fallacy, where they keep investing time and effort and money into this thing. So they feel that they must be getting something back from it. And people can kind of create their own reality that way. And that's part of what's going on with Dianetics and with all of Scientology, really. All pseudoscience really is kind of everything I just kind of laid out. That's kind of what happens. Okay, so the sunk cost fallacy leads a person down the road far enough that they finally get to the place where they realize, I'm not going to be cured of my leukemia. My eyes aren't getting any better as a result of this Dianetics auditing. But look at all these gains I've already had. And then the additional information that they then pile into this as they learn more about Dianetics and more about Scientology, as they, get on this bridge to total freedom and start paying for more services and doing more, is they start telling themselves, they start convincing themselves that, oh, Hubbard made all these claims, but then he found that it only worked on certain select people that Hubbard was auditing, and he had to do all this further research in order to get techniques and procedures that all of us could use to get these wonderful, miraculous results. Because it wasn't that he was lying, see? It was just that he was such a good auditor, and everybody else wasn't such a good auditor, and the book doesn't really give you enough of all the techniques and everything that Hubbard was using. See, this is kind of, everything I'm telling you right now is stuff Hubbard actually said after Dianetics was published, in the lectures that Hubbard gave, and in the rest of the books and materials that Hubbard put out. He was constantly apologizing and explaining why the results weren't available at this step, but now they're going to be. Oh, and now they're going to be. Oh, well, we weren't clearing people with this, but now clearing's broken open. This was the constant recurring refrain all through the 1950s. Hubbard was constantly promising the sun, moon, and stars, but only delivering a rotten piece of meat, right, on a slab. So people kind of kept going with it. A lot of people saw through it and left. And that's why there's this sort of, building Dianetics and Scientology through the 50s was a slow, grinding process for a long time. Hubbard's followers came and went based on all these big promises he'd been making. So bottom line is, me, other people in Dianetics and Scientology, as we got involved, read this book or read these claims, wanted to believe them, invested in it, got something out of it, and said, well, we got something, so it must lead to these great big claims. Not a warranted assumption, but we made it anyway. And you continue on and continue on and continue on with it. And until eventually, finally, you realize, oh, wait a minute. None of this is working out at all. And it takes years, unfortunately, but you find out, wait a minute, I'm pretty much the same now as I was when I got in. What's happening here, right? And all that luster and wonderfulness and all that sort of fades, and you realize that you've been taken for a ride. And that's kind of the progression of what happens in people's heads when they get into these groups, which is why eventually the ultimate product of Scientology is people leaving Scientology, because eventually most people wake up to what's going on. Some in a short period of time, a lot of people in a short period of time. Some of us, took us quite a bit longer. And there were other reasons why that was, like being raised in it. That's a big, big motive to stay into it too. So that's how you can see an obvious fact, like Scientologists get sick and still believe that Dianetics works, right? Is because the research trail wasn't finished yet. That's one big way that Scientologists justify it to themselves. So I hope that gives a little bit of clarity. You know, this is a big topic. I could talk about other reasons people hang around and hang on. There's all kinds of social pressures and other things too, but I think you get the idea.